Hello, everyone. My name is Pumzala Zonke, and I am with my co-host Sumia. Welcome back to the other side of counseling. So today we are talking about a very interesting topic, and it is understanding that therapists, counselors, psychologists, social workers, people within the mental health community are also human. Surprise, surprise. So, Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome, thank you. Um, it was cold this morning, but it's heated up quite nicely. So I'm feeling good, feeling positive. Really looking forward to the segment with you as well. How
Mhm.
are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a long week. I'm good. But we're getting there slowly but surely, keeping hydrated and getting there. So,
Mm.
Sam, to open it up for us, how are you feeling about the topic for today? Trying to explain to people or highlighting that therapists are also human beings.
I think it's quite an interesting topic that we're delving into because I know before I was a counselor or a therapist, and I was just kind of interested in psychology, and I went to my first therapist. I had this strange idea in my head that as a psychologist or a counselor, their lives are perfect and they don't have
Mm.
any problems. Like they have all the knowledge, they must have everything in
Mm.
order. And then I realized, but they're also human, they also flawed. And as human
Mm.
beings, I think we're always going to face challenges or obstacles that's going to crop up at some time or another. It's just a matter of how equipped we are to actually face said challenges.
Mm.
And as a counselor, as a therapist, you do have the necessary skills, the tools, the knowledge, but like having that knowledge and actually using the knowledge is two different things.
True.
And I mean, even as when I started studying psychology and we were doing like counseling on each other in class because it was quite applied,
Mm.
there was actually a stage where I used to get frustrated by some of the feelings that I started having over time because it's like people would do things, but I
Mm.
understand why they're doing it and can demonstrate empathy. And I'm like, I understand they're doing this, and this is the root cause of it. And because
Mm.
I understand, I'm not supposed to feel upset, but I am upset. And
Mhm.
I had to come to like this realization that it's okay to feel or be in a space where you're not okay despite being a counselor or therapist. So
Mm.
just because you understand where it's coming from doesn't automatically make it okay.
Mm. That's true. Just to add on to the part of being upset about certain things, I learned in the beginning of counseling that one has to learn their triggers, learning what triggers you and where do those triggers stem from. I remember my supervisor at the time asking me, so how would you feel if you were to counsel a convict, for example, and you know that this person did all of these things that are horrible? How would you feel about that? And my answer at the time was, no, I'm not doing that. Why would I want to do that? It's like, no, but you have to understand that there are certain ethics that comes with being a counselor. There's certain values that you must also hold to heart when you're being a counselor as well, and understanding that there's no place for judgment. You are not here to judge anyone. You are here to just hold a space for your client, whether your client is A or whether your client is B. So that was my biggest challenge at the beginning of being a counselor, just learning my triggers, especially with certain sensitive topics, be it GBV, be it rape, be it anything of that sort, because it's very close to heart. So learning that that is your client's space.
Yeah.
So another thing that was a bit of a topic, Sam, was understanding that therapy is not where you get advice.
Mm.
What's your take on that? Because I remember it was a bit of a challenge for some of the clients I had in the past when I said, I cannot give you advice. I'm not here to give you advice.
Yeah.
So, what is your side on that?
So I think I'm gonna just backtrack slightly before I go into that as well.
Mm,
The idea of triggers, because I feel that is such a valuable point that you made, because
mm,
even just like the awareness of our triggers starts shifting our behavior because it makes us start to pause when we know what our triggers are. And
mm-hmm,
it's also like important to understand how we behave when we are triggered so we can start shifting the behavior.
mm,
So that it's behavior, or I know in psychology we talk about defense mechanisms. I prefer to use the term coping strategy.
mm,
And it's about understanding that over the accumulation of our lives, we develop the coping strategies or defense mechanisms. And at the stage where it was born or where it comes from,
mm,
it served us. And we need to ascertain, is it still serving us now and adding value? Or is it
mm,
actually hindering our growth and transformation? And then kind of make a decision on what to do next. And then
mm,
to come back to your question, I think a lot of people who haven't been exposed to therapy
mm,
think that therapy is about advice. So it's like I'm going to go to counseling or a therapy session and get all the answers.
mm,
And it's like counseling is a magic bullet or a magic wand. And suddenly I'm going to go for one session and my life's going to be sorted.
mm. Yes.
Not, not realizing that counseling is a process
Mm,
that we go through to connect more deeply to ourselves, to develop certain skill sets. And I think another area or misconception that is that, or my opinion, my understanding, is that despite having studied many years and being an expert in a specific field, I'm still not the expert of the client.
mm,
I feel that they are the expert of themselves. And yes, we all have certain blind spots, which
mm,
is why having an objective, well, it's not really completely objective, but having a third party who's not emotionally immersed or steeped in your experience can
mhm,
assist you in identifying those blind spots. For example, a counselor can
mm,
assist you in developing the necessary skill sets to be the best possible version of yourself in each moment.
mm. I remember having a conversation with colleagues of mine, female therapists at the time, and they are in their 20s,
Mm,
mid and early 20s, and they just got into the profession and they just became counselors. So we are now talking about social lives. While we are now saying, okay, counselors have lives, they are human beings, and we mentioned that, but as we have to understand that there's a certain rules, gray areas that we have to follow. Because at the end of the day, yes, your counselor is not perfect. Yes, your counselor has a life. Yes, your counselor does things, but they also have to keep in mind that they have to do it at a certain standard, and the certain things that you just have to just let go of and not partake in. So we were talking about that. Now to step back for you, I am very interested. I love to ask this to fellow counselors. In your 20s, when you just started the whole counseling journey, how did you navigate your social life? How were you able to balance being a 20s and being a therapist and also maintaining the values and morals that come with being a counselor, but at the same time living your life? How did you get that balance?
I think, I guess because I started therapy at quite a young age, alongside martial arts, um, it's really developed a code of honor or sense of discipline within
Mm-hmm.
myself, um, which basically directed the way that I did things. And I guess spirituality as well was a big
Mm-hmm.
um, factor. I wasn't doing any wild things necessarily in my 20s. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in my teens, sure, I can admit to that. There were some things that I did that I frowned upon and had to process and that kind of thing. And I think we all have that. And I think I've come to realize that as human beings, we all have a past self. And there's certain things that past me did that current me looks at and I'm like, why did you do that? Like, it's silly. It was potentially stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Practicing self compassion and kindness and realizing, you know, that version of myself did the best that he could with what he knew. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes he didn't do that, but he was like, let me see what happens. That's okay
Mm-hmm.
because his actions, behaviors, thoughts got me to where I am now. And I think it was Maya Angelou that said, we can only do better when we know better.
True.
So it's like this me knows slightly better than him, or at least I think I do. I hope so. So I can behave differently and I can show up differently
Mm,
and I can forgive him, like past me, for anything that he's done and let go of so that I can be the best possible me right now.
mm, that's true. That's true.
And I think like this idea of the best version of oneself, I must add in this moment.
Mm,
Because sometimes we don't have the energetic capacity to be
mm-hmm,
completely switched on right now, but it's the best that
mm,
you can do for right now, and that's okay.
mm. That's true. That's true. There is a discussion that I had with some students, and their question was, doesn't being a counselor make you cold? Doesn't it detach you from certain emotions and make you feel a bit cold as the time goes? And I had to analyze this question a little bit because um, as counselors, we are taught and we are trained that when your client is having an emotional moment and they're crying, you're not their friend. You're not going to sit there and cry with them and share tissues and comfort each other, but you're going to sit with them and allow them to express their own emotions and allow them to go through what they're feeling at that moment. And the question from the students was, so when do you express your emotions? If you felt emotional in that session, or you felt like you might just join in with a tear or two, but you were able to hold yourself and be professional. So when do you allow yourself for those emotions to come through and come to the surface? Because at the end of the day, we do preach that do not suppress your emotions, feel every
Yeah.
emotion, and process every emotion. So, on our side as counselors, when do you specifically feel and process your emotions, and how do you do it?
Okay. Well, not during a session. Um,
Not during a session.
no, for me, the sessions that I have with clients,
Mm,
that is their space. I'm simply a space holder, a facilitator, and potentially a catalyst.
mm,
Um, During the session, it's about holding them. And what you mentioned earlier about triggers, it's being aware of your triggers, your biases, anything that where you could potentially have value imposition, where you taking your stuff and trying to make your client see it through that lens, that needs to be removed from the session because it's
mm,
about the client and their well-being and how to add the most value for them in the session. So it's not about me.
mm,
If you do become triggered, I won't say you. In sessions where I was triggered within the therapeutic or counseling space, I had to acknowledge what's being shared now,
mm,
doing something inside of me. And I made a note of it. This has triggered me
mm,
um, because it's connected to an event that potentially happened to me. It was making me feel this way. Note
mm,
that this is how you're feeling, because when you feel like this is how you behave. That's
mm,
not allowed in this space because this is the client space.
mm,
Afterward, you can sit with it and process it with yourself and with your supervisor. That's how
mhm,
I go about doing it, anyways, because even though we say that the counseling space is objective, it's not truly objective
mm,
because I think one of the biggest parts of counseling is
mhm,
the therapeutic relationship. And you are also immersing yourself with your client and being fully present with them
mhm,
and sharing, not of your necessarily disclosing constantly, but you will potentially disclose what's relevant to further assist your client.
mm,
Um, and obviously sharing knowledge and skill sets.
mhm,
So you are sharing things and they are generally informed by your perspectives. But it's being aware of what's going on inside your head so that you don't
mhm,
color it in with your perspective, but allow the client to fill it in. I
mm.
guess that's how I see it, anyways.
No, that's true.
How do you?
That's true. I think it also goes back to the gray areas as well. Just also understanding that it's very important for you to remove your own feelings from the client's feelings, because it could easily detangle in your mind and you end up having certain emotions or certain objectives that you can see that they do not belong to you. They are not yours, but it's just that you were exposed to them for a certain amount of time or for a certain duration of time. So that's that constant reminder that detach yourself from it, but at the same time, don't be cold, be human and be present. And with that said, how does one detach? By that, I mean there is Pumza, me, and then there's Pumza, the counselor. The reason why I say that is because Pumza, me, is at home, is interacting with family and friends, and then there's Pumza, the counselor that deals with clients as well. I know there is a constant joke that runs within my family and my friends where we have a conversation and someone will be like, please don't analyze me. This is not a therapy session. I'm just having a conversation with you. And I have to constantly say, I'm not, I'm just talking. That's all it is. So, on your side, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with leaving Sam, the counselor, at the office and then becoming Sam dad and Sam husband and Sam son and so on?
I think for me, it's like a switch.
Hmm.
It's, it's like a switch of going into work mode and being outside of work mode.
Mm.
Of course, because of like what we've studied and the experiences that we go through, it obviously colors us. So the way that we communicate and navigate our way through life would be different if we didn't study what we did. But the same can be said for any career path or any journey
Mm.
we've been on. It impacts and influences us.
Mm.
Um, but I think when it comes to the work, the counseling, um, there's a definite heightened awareness when you are in session.
Mm.
Because I'm sure, as most clients do, or not clients, a lot of counselors before a session, we prep for the session.
Mm.
So it's like we basically prime our brains, our beings for the session so that I can be aware, attentive in the moment with the client. We're not
Mm.
necessarily doing that outside of the session. Like there's
Mm.
bits of it that we probably do, but we're not always switched on.
Mm.
I think
That's
that's kind of how I navigate it.
That's true. We'd be completely drained if we were constantly counselors throughout the day and in our lives as well. We'd be completely drained. Imagine going through life and analyzing everyone on a constant daily basis, reading body language, how they speak, tone, all of those things on a daily, all day. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm sorry. No, I would not be able to do it. So, just in closing, I'd love to ask you, what advice would you give to those that just stepped into the mental health community and the mental health space to make sure that they stay authentic, to make sure that they stay true to themselves, to make sure that they stay true to who they are. Because I know that people tend to want to be like the next person in order to become the perfect counselor, which I believe does not exist. So, what gems of wisdom would you give to those and just to help them stay within course, but at the same time fulfill what they want to do?
Yeah. I do find it slightly funny that we open the segment saying counselors don't give advice and then saying, what
Gems of
advice?
wisdom.
But I think, something I've realized going myself to different therapists
Mm,
that one, therapy is awesome.
it is.
Um, Supervision is a fantastic tool
Mm-hmm.
to enrich your own work, but also to safeguard your clients. And
Mm,
if we are in the therapeutic or counseling or even the coaching space,
mm,
I feel that it's so important to do your own work because I know there's quite a lot of there's a few therapists that I've met who feel that they are therapists so they don't need therapy.
mm,
And that's so false. Yes, we have the skills, we have the knowledge, but
mm,
we too need that external voice or sounding board so that we can
Mm-hmm.
better understand ourselves, our triggers, our way of being, how to be the best version of ourselves.
Mm.
So I would say do the self work. Um, like we said in one of the other segments as well, to actually associate with more people in the field and adjacent fields, build up that relationships, that network,
Mm.
understand what it is you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's probably one of the big things that helped me accelerate my growth as well within the counseling field. Figure out what it is you want and
Mm-hmm.
find the people who are already doing it and are in flow and reach
Mm.
out, connect with them. Don't
Mm-hmm.
think, oh, they are successful, they are doing things. They wouldn't want to talk to little me because little me
Mm.
reached out. And I'm like, the work that you're doing is amazing. Tell
Mm.
me more about what you do, and ask questions
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you feel assisted in your successes? What potential pitfalls can I avoid
Mm.
um, while I build my practice? Because those little things help. I
Mm.
guess getting a mentor could be quite
Mm.
useful as well.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think off the top of my head, those few things are super important. The self work, mentorship.
Mm.
Uh, I guess you could refer to it as like networking as well.
Mm-hmm. No, those are very three strong pillars. Those are the foundation of any practice. And also understanding that the most important thing is in order for your client to walk out of the counseling room feeling fulfilled with themselves, you have to have something to pour into their glass or into their jar. So taking care of yourself as a counselor is very important, and understanding the importance of it as well. And just remaining true to yourself. If you're a bubbly person, be a bubbly counselor. Why not? If you're a quiet person, you can be a calming soul to someone. Who knows? So don't try and alter yourself or change yourself just because you want to become one or you want to be like the people in the community. We are all different. We are all special in our own ways. That's why we have the network so that you can utilize referring systems. And if you can see that you and the client are not jamming or are clashing, then it's very healthy to let go of that relationship. You do not want to damage anyone. So just refer them to someone else. Maybe they'll blend better with Sam than they do with me. So, with that said, Sam, is there anything else that you'd like to say? But on my side, I think I don't have anything else to say.
I guess just stay awesome until next
You're
time.
welcome.